Alright guys, let's get started. You gotta enter a password to access my practice questions, and here we go. Which choice correctly identifies the OSI model beginning from layer 1 to layer 7? Okay, this should be easy. I'm a network security engineer by trade. This should come easy. And really, if you know the OSI model for the CISSP exam, then you have a pretty good firm grip on domain 4 itself. You know, you gotta know, you can't just know layer 1 is a physical layer. You got to know the components of it, the protocols, and everything that goes into it, the PDUs, all that kind of stuff. So for choice A, fiber, MAC address, IP, yeah, fiber optics is layer 1, so is MAC address, so is layer 3, IP, layer UDP is in layer 4, RPC is in layer 5, session layer, TIFF, definitely a presentation layer. Choice A looks like the right answer, but let's look over all the choices just in case. Fiber optic, yep, that's right. Data link is a layer 2. BGP is a networking protocol. It is in layer 3. I think some people say it can also be an application layer, but it's a routing protocol, so I'm going to go with it being right in layer 3. TCP is in layer 4 for sure. Point-to-point tunneling protocol. I don't think that's in the session layer. I remember that being in layer 2. It's a tunneling protocol, and it's point-to-point, so I don't think choice B is right because PPTP is in layer 2, not on the session layer. So I'm going to eliminate this choice and not bother looking at it again. Choice C, fiber optic, once again, layer 1. 802.3 is the Ethernet standard, so that is definitely layer 2. OSPF is a routing protocol, that is in layer 3. And UDP is layer 4, yep. PAP authentication model, is that in the session layer? I don't know. MIDI is definitely in the presentation layer, and HTTP is in the application layer. Okay. I don't know if PAP is in the session layer, so so we already limited choice B, right? Because I don't think point-to-point tunneling protocol is in layer 3. We're going to put a maybe for choice C, and let's see what choice D is. Fiber optics, yep, layer 1. Frames is layer 2, yes, MAC address frames. IP is definitely layer 3, networking layer. TCP is in the transport layer for sure. Is SSL in the session layer? That's like the age-old CISSP question. What layer does transport layer security or sessions secure sockets layer? What layer is SSL or TLS? What layer do they fall into? And a lot of people say session layer. A lot of people say transport layer. Secure sockets layer. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's in the session layer for this question. Let's see if we can eliminate anything else. ASCII is definitely in the presentation layer. It converts HTML, ASCII to HTML, or ASCII to anything else we can read. And HTTP is definitely layer 7. What did I say? I said, so choice B and C I'm kind of iffy about because of point-to-point tunneling protocol and PAP. So it's either choice A or choice D. I'm going to go with, because of SSL, I'm not sure it should be there. I'm going to go with choice A as being the right answer. Let's see if we're right. What? How's choice B? What? Which choice correctly identifies the OSI model beginning from layer 1 to 7? Choice B is correct. Why is that? Because choice A and C are not the right answer because HTTP uses TCP, not UDP. Choice A. Oh, I see what's going on. Oh, because the choice has UDP in it and HTTP, it's not right because HTTP uses TCP. Oh, tricky. Me? Oh, you got to admit, that's a pretty good practice question. That's pretty tricky. So that would, okay. Because HTTP uses UDP, that's not the right answer. Okay. That means choice C is also not the right answer because HTTP uses UDP, which narrows down to choice B and D. So why is B correct? Let's see, why is D not correct? D is not the right answer because SSL is being used. It would be HTTP. Oh, that's also tricky. Because choice D has SSL in it, that would make HTTP HTTPS because that's what makes HTTP secure sockets layer. But the modern version is TLS, transport layer security. I must have created this question before the Poodle vulnerability. Okay, so choice D is not the answer because SSL is there, which would make this HTTP. But since TCP is there, which is HTTP, which makes B the right answer because it's the process of elimination. So OSI model is just I know the SIBAC says point-to-point tunnel protocols on layer 2. I just went with what I saw in the official guide to the CDK, which is official vocabulary. Okay, so what my explanation is saying is that, first of all, choices A and C are not that right answer because HTTP does not use UDP, it uses TCP. And it's not choice D because SSL would make HTTP HTTPS. And it's choice B because its point-to-point tunneling protocol was the only one I was iffy about. I thought it was layer 2, but it says that in the official ISC guide to the CISSP, it is in layer 3, or yeah, layer 3, layer 5, the session layer. Okay, I get it, Wow, we're just on question 1, and this is already like taking 5 minutes of the time with such difficulty. Let's go to the next one. A server that hosts a shopping website is valued at generating $900,000 per year. Security devices, equipment, data center space, and the employee salaries necessary to safeguard the website cost $900,000 and $1 per year. So what I'm seeing is that the value of the website that is hosted on the web server is $900,000 per year, and the security devices that secure that web server cost $900,000 and $1 per year. So essentially what this question is saying is that the security needed to protect the asset cost $1 more than the actual value itself. So without even looking at the choices, I know the question has something to do with how much should you spend on an asset, more or less? And I guess that's what the question is going to be. Which of the following is false about cost analysis when it comes to the security and cost of an asset? Yeah. So the cost of the security measure should not exceed the value of the asset. That's true. The cost of the security measure should not exceed the value of the asset. The safeguard should cost more than the asset value. The safeguard should cost more than asset value. That's not right. That's false. Choice C, the safeguard should be less in cost than the system it is protecting. That's true. Oh, I get it. Right. The question is asking which is false about cost analysis. So this is true. Choice A is true. The cost of a security measure should not exceed the value of the asset. So that's not right. The safeguard should be less in cost than the system it is protecting. That's true, because that's not right. The asset value should be more than the safeguard. That's true. So choice B should be the correct answer because it is false. Which of the following is false about cost analysis? Yeah, so it's choice B. Yeah, choice B. The correct answer is B because it is false. That's very convoluted. The safeguard should not cost more than the asset value. Right. So if you have a website that generates $2,000 in revenue for you per month or per year, don't buy like a $10,000 firewall to protect that. Your security device, your security component should not cost more than the value you're protecting. You want to keep your security cost lower than the value because that doesn't make sense. Why would you put a $10,000 engine into a $2,000 car? That's basically what it's saying. This, by the way, is classic things like a manager for the CISSP exam. If you want to pass the CISSP exam, this is how you got to look at security. Let's look at choice question 3. Which of the following is not a basic requirement for ISACAMP as set forth by RFC 2408? So I deal with VPNs. I used to deal with VPNs all day at my job, so I think I can get this right away. Which of the following is Which of the following is not a basic requirement for ISACAMP? So record status information about the connection. Not too sure about that. Authenticate communication peers? For sure. ISACAMP definitely authenticates 2 firewall endpoints when you try to create an IPsec VPN, a site-to-site VPN. Does it create and manage security associations? 100% it does. Those essays that I look at when I do the debug logs, VPN ICA debug logs, and provide a key generation mechanism, I'm pretty sure that's right. So choice B for sure, choice C for sure, choice D I'm pretty sure is also something provided by ISACAMP. I'm going to say choice A, record status information about the connection is not a basic requirement for ISACAMP. Yeah, that's right. ISACAMP does not record the status information about a connection as a requirement. I do remember that, not just from studying my CISSP, but just from my own real-life experience, from seeing debug logs. And that's what the CISSP is about, right? I mean, they want your 5-year experience requirement so you can answer the questions based on your experience. And like, I'll tell you a little secret, guys. You can read every single CISSP book out there, every NIST document, every single scholarly article about CISSP ever written. But that does not mean you will pass the CISSP exam. There is just some question that comes from your own experience that you will no doubt encounter if you've worked in information security for at least 5 years. Let's look at the next one. 2 employees from the auditing and 1 employee from sales department releasing a victim. Also, guys, I know you can read. I know you're watching this on YouTube. You can just pause the video. I'm not going to read the whole question and insult your intelligence by reading things to you. You guys get it. So I'm just going to kind of skim it my own way and then go through the choices. Remember, this is a speed run, not a excruciatingly slow run. All the website that managed did not want to happen. For an effective security awareness program, which of the following would help the least? So what happened was employees from 2 different departments were victims of a phishing attack. They clicked on the link, went to the website that looked like their company portal, entered their name, and everything got compromised. And management does not want this to happen again. That's another think like a manager concept, guys. Management does not want the same issue, the same error, the same compromise to happen over and over again. Happens once, okay, you got to deal with it a second time. If it happens twice, that's really bad. So you got to put in countermeasures and security policies to make sure the same mistake doesn't happen again. Management hates when the same threat occurs, when the same risk gets compromised over and over again. So the question is asking, for an effective security awareness program to kind of deal with everything on top of the 2-factor authentication and security awareness training, which would help the least? Cross-departmental participation is choice A. I would think that helps a lot because they're employees from auditing and sales. So you need cross-departmental participation in the security awareness training program. So I'm going to say choice A is definitely not the right answer because which ones will help the least? I mean, it could be. Maybe the other 3 choices are so strong that it makes choice A look like the least effective. Choice B, training courses for the organization's security professionals. Tricky question. I know this. You don't want training for the security professionals. We're already trained, right? We're already trained in the ways of security. And of course, we can always use more training, but the focus of this question is to train the users. So I'm going to actually say choice B is probably the right answer, but let me just check out choice C. Security skills for employees other than IT security. That's a big help as part of a security awareness training program. You want to implement some sort of, or impart some sort of security skill. It doesn't have to be something hardcore like, let's talk about iris versus retina scan and which one's better, but security skills like basic security skills. Learn how to identify a phishing attack. When you get an email, hover over the link to make sure it's not redirecting you to something else. It's going to an authentic website. Make sure a website has HTTPS, not HTTP, and they have a valid certificate. Those are just basic security skills for anybody other than IT security. So I'm going to say this would help quite a bit. So choice C and A would help quite a bit. As well as training as a directive from senior management. Oh, very important. This one probably helps the most. Senior management needs to issue a policy saying, hey, from now on, there is going to be security awareness training as a program, and not only that, as a directive, meaning we said there's going to be security training, and that means you got to do what we tell you. So choice D is probably the most important, thinking like a manager. Then choice A, then choice B, then choice C, which means that choice B is probably the least effective, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yeah, that's right. The correct answer is B, because security professionals are already security professionals. More training will only make them that much more technical, advanced, and intelligent. We don't want that. I mean, of course we want that, but we don't want that for this question. We want the employees getting the training. So that's why choice B is the right answer. Okay. And look, I know I provide the explanations here. I know you know how to do a screenshot. It's not beyond me that I know you're screenshotting and pausing these questions and explanations for your own benefit. That's why I'm posting on YouTube. Screenshot away, copy away. What's the next question? The next question is, background screening and drug testing are now part of Rymartech's hiring policies for new and current employees, okay? The new directive will be added in a document containing the company's policies. I'm going to say that is true. If you're going to have background screening and drug testing, you're going to have to let the employees know that. And the only way to know that is through a policy. So I'm like, plus true. What? False? Why? This new directive will be added in a document containing the company's standards. Oh, not policies. That's right. Standards documents contain more specific objectives, while policy documents are more high level. That's absolutely correct. You don't want to mention such specific things like background screening and drug testing in overall hiring policies. I mean, you can if that policy is specific to that kind of problem. But yeah, standard means from now on, in any hiring policy, the standard for the company is to have a background screening and drug testing. Okay, that's true. The new directive will be added in a document containing the company's policies is false. It'll be added to the hiring policies standards document. An organization using both Linux and Windows operating systems have the subject of several zero-day exploits. Security administration Linux using ASLR and integrate into the Windows operating system. They have not had a zero-day exploit since. Address space layout randomization memory protection addresses which one of the following security issues? Whoa, this is a tough one. This takes me back to when the CISSP was 10 domains and security architecture and engineering was an actual domain. I think it was like domain 3, where you talk about where they describe the actual CPUs, the RAM, the bus lines. I don't think they do that anymore for the new exam, since they condensed it to 8 domains. I'll be honest with you guys, I have no idea what this choice is. I'm just going to do a very educated guess and process of elimination. Address space layout randomization memory protection addresses which one of the following security issues? The availability of executable stacks. I have no idea what that means. The interference between processes on different security levels. I guess, maybe. The direct access of processes to the physical address. That doesn't sound like a security issue, or maybe it does. It sounds like a thing a computer already does. The freedom of protecting the next memory address. Since ASLR has the word randomization in it, and memory protection, it needs, somehow I think the word randomization and freedom of protecting the next memory address, predicting and memory, I'm going to say this is the right answer purely as a guess. I have no idea. I have no idea what the question is asking. I have no idea what the choices mean, but I think because of the word randomization and choice and the freedom of predicting is the right answer. Here we go. Yes, I can't believe I got that right. Yes. Attackers can predict the positions of memory functions and processes within an operating system. What ASLR does is randomize these predictable operating system address spaces. It was first implemented. Okay. All right. I was right. I don't know why I was right, but reading this system memory and pathway, I get it. I understand why that's the right answer. Security issues. Okay. Next one. A firewall should by default deny all traffic. 100% true. That's called a implicit deny. Because, you know, I do this all day. I'm a network security engineer. Have I said that enough in this video? I don't think I've said that enough. Did you guys know I'm a network security engineer and work with firewalls? If you guys didn't know that, I'm letting you know now that I'm a network security engineer and work with firewalls. When you plug a firewall into the network, it's very simple. As a basic security concern, do you want all traffic to pass right away? Or do you want all traffic to be denied, and then you can decide on your own which one goes to the firewall? Of course, the second one. You want to deny all traffic, which is called a implicit deny, and then you want to allow only what you want to allow, which is called a explicit rule, an explicit allow. Explicit means it's done manually. You do it. You decide to do it. And implicit means it's done by default. So this is true 100%. If this winds up being false, I will shut down my website. Okay, it's true. Firewall should come out of the box with a deny all rule. Phew. I mean, what else could it be? You know what I mean? Which of the following would be the least effective when crafting a data retention policy? Okay, least effective and data retention. Data retention means how long you keep data around, how long it sticks around. Deciding which data to retain. That's definitely an effective method. That's most effective. Considering retention strategies. How long do you want to keep the data? 5 days, 7 months, 8 years? What is it? A hint for that is look for what regulation for as far as your data. If you want to, for the CISSP exam, think like a manager. The answer will most likely revolve around what regulation you have to follow for the data retention policy. And if you don't have one, then you go with the company policy. So choice B is definitely a very important consideration, as is choice A. The amount of data, does the amount of data, would that be the most effective when data retention? I'm going to say choice C is probably the least effective. Is it easy to recover? Oh, that's very important. The data's got to be recoverable. Don't just put data into data retention backups and storage without a means to recover it. So choice D is definitely important. I'm going to say the amount of data, whether it's a gig or 10 terabytes. I don't think that matters when it comes to a data retention policy. It matters with like storage and the cost of storage, but that's not a data retention policy. That's a data storage and cost policy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was right. Correct answer is C. Deciding which data to retain is all the right answer. So, but rather, there could be 100 gigs of useless data, but 2 megabytes of national security data. The value of the data dictates the retention, location, and recovery strategies. Okay. Choice C is the right answer. The amount of data is the least effective when crafting a data retention policy. Let's look at the next one. The CISO Brower test is working to improve the company's data security function. Again, I'm not going to read it. You guys can pause and read it. I'm just going to skim through it. Broker will be in charge of oh, okay, so it's talking about incremental backups, offsite storage. What is the least effective factor to creating a sound data classification program? Okay. Let's see. What is it? This kind of goes back to our data retention kind of thing, but this is about but this is about data classification. Remember, that's like labeling data that is sensitive, classified, or critical, or something like that. So least effective factor. Is maintenance of the data an important factor for creating a sound data classification? Yes, it is, because you need to maintain the data in order to retrieve it and use it. Is contractual responsibilities pertaining to data protection? For sure. You got to follow the contract with your client or customer on how they want the data classification to go. Especially with Brooke and her data custodian roles, you need to listen to the data owner, who will dictate the responsibilities of the data custodian, which is Brooke, on what the contractual responsibilities are. So choice B and A are definitely important factors to consider for data classification. And choice C, is that the right answer? Data availability? Yeah, again, just like data retention. Is the data around? Like, you got to make sure the data is available. What about choice D, storage? What is the least effective factor to creating a sound data class? I'm going to say storage is the least effective when it comes to data classification. Because, why is that? Let me try to think. Because storage usually doesn't matter. Like, the location of the data doesn't matter, or where it's sourced from, or where it's going, where it's ingressing from, and where it's egressing to. Not for the CISSP or for this question. I'm gonna go with storage, and I'll admit it. I think I remember storage being the right answer for when I created this question, so I'm gonna pick storage. Yeah, storage. The question is essentially asking which parameters are the least significant and least cost-effective when creating a sound data classification program to determine sensitivity and criticality levels. So sensitivity, criticality levels, data classification right away. Could you tell Brooke the same goes for B? Contractual responsibility of data is an important parameter. Yeah, so choice B, I just want to expand and say, again, contractual responsibilities are extremely important when it comes to deciding how to classify your program or your data retention. But above that, as I also said, laws and regulations. Make sure you have to follow your laws and regulations and those requirements for data retention and data classification first before you follow your companies. The law of the land comes first before corporate policy. Ooh, that was a long question and a huge explanation. That's what I do, guys. I provide a lot of explanation for my practice questions because, quite simply, my philosophy is you deserve it. You're studying for a very hard exam, so you should get as much from me as you are putting into the exam itself, which I know you're putting in a lot of energy. I've been through it. I understand. You know, because as a CISSP instructor, if I'm not putting in more work than you, what kind of instructor am I? The student can't put in more work than the instructor. I got to put in way more work than you. If you're putting in 2 hours of work a day, I got to put in 5. If you're studying three days a week, I got to study 7. You know, the instructor's got to be stronger than the student. Can't be the other way around. All right, question 10. A new customer payment gateway software has been created by a development team that develops software code to process. This is why software like individual components. The CISO has stated that for full accreditation, she would prefer to verify all the components are working together as a whole. That's a CISSP term right there, accreditation. I mean, all my questions have the CISSP terms in there. Accreditation is an actual term you should know, which means the formal acceptance and approval of senior management of a software or system into the environment. So the CISO, before she is it a she? Yeah, is it a she? Software code? Yeah, she or he, I forget. Yeah, I don't think it identifies the pronoun. The CISO said that for full components, she would work together. Anyway, the CISO said that for before accreditation, she wants all the components. She wants to know all the components working together. So we're looking for a testing method that would test all the components when they add in the new software code. Is it acceptance testing? I think that has to do with user testing. So the users have to accept the program that it's working. I don't think it's that. Unit testing, I know it's not that because that's just testing a single unit, a single silo of the code on a specific system. It is most likely, it is integration testing. I know it's not regression testing because that's what happens when you add a update or a patch to an existing code and then test the entire system for changes introduced by that code. So I'm going to say choice C, integration testing, because the definition of integration testing is a full test of all components of when new code is added. And I bet you that's the right answer. Boom. Yes, correct answer. The correct answer is C. This is the most effective because of one simple CISSP concept. Senior management is in charge, and what they say is what everyone has to do, okay? The CISO wanted to verify all components work together as a whole. This is the meaning of integration testing. Yeah, just like I explained. I like that I wrote, this is the most effective because of one simple concept. Senior management is in charge, and you got to do what they say, which is true. You got to do what senior management says. That's how you think like a manager for the CISSP exam. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is kind of fun going through all my practice questions, and you know what the funny and fun part is? That even I'm getting it wrong. I'm getting the questions wrong, and I created these questions. Crazy. All right, which of the following choices do not belong with the rest? Oh boy. Which of the following choices do not belong with the rest? What kind of a question is this? What was I smoking when I wrote this? Choice A, low likelihood. Okay. Cost, predicted threat of APT, estimated connections per second. What the fudge? What does this mean? Which of the following do not belong with the rest? Low likelihood and cost. How do they belong together? Predicted threat of estimated connections per day. So what's the connection between all of them? Low likelihood, maybe choice A and choice C kind of go together, because look, low likelihood of a predicted threat of APT. Predicted threat of APT could be high or low, but you know they kind of go together, A and C. Estimated connections per day. Cost, see, low likelihood of something happening, like a risk being realized, can affect cost, because if there's low likelihood of a risk, you're not going to spend that much on the countermeasure or the security. So predicted threat, I'm going to say estimated connections per day is the outlier. Cost, the correct answer is B. Choices A, C, and D are the result of qualitative analysis. B is determined by quantitative, of course. Oh, Luke Ahmed, you tricky scoundrel. Holy cow. When did I even make this question? I get it. Low likelihood. That's not a official number. That's just like, you can't put a number on that. That's a qualitative estimation. Low likelihood, right? It's not a definitive number. Cost is a number. That's definitely a quantitative measure of something. It's a quantitative analysis. You can put a number to it. Predicted threat. You can't put a number to that. It's not official. It's predicted. You can't measure that. Estimated connections per day. Estimated. It's not 10,000 connections per day. It's an estimated connections per day. I got it. Choices A, C, and D are qualitative analysis, and choice B, cost, is a quantitative analysis. Tricky. Oh, I like that one for some reason. No wonder people write me saying, your questions were awesome, but don't take this the wrong way. At some point, I wanted to throw my computer out the window because it was so frustrating when I thought I knew the right answer and I didn't, and I got it wrong. And then when I looked at the actual right answer, I couldn't really argue it because your explanation was so good, I couldn't really go on with it. All right, choice 12. Match each software programming language to the correct generation. Okay, before you say anything, the CISSP exam will not have matching or drop down or true and false questions. It's all multiple choice questions. I add these to my practice questions just to give you a break from like the giant question, the giant explanations of just reading. These just kind of give you like a little relief. And also, I'm not trying to copy and be like the CISSP exam, which is one, illegal and against NDA, and it's just not my style. I don't copy anyone or anything. I just do my own thing to reinforce your knowledge and concepts, and that's basically the overall goal. So match each software programming language to the correct generations. Oh, this is why would I create a question like this? First generation, like this. Domain. This is from Domain 8 software development, which isn't really my strongest suit. I can keep up with the software developments at work, but when I talk about security, because you know that's what CISSP do. Even the developers will come to us and say, how do we secure the software? And not only that, as a network security engineer, Luke, how can we develop software that makes your job easier so you don't have to deal with so many vulnerabilities and CVEs and IPS alarms going off? So I can talk to those guys, but if you ask me to create an object using some code, I can't do that. Hello world is as far as I went as far as my programming career. First generation, I can't really remember this. I'm gonna pick machine language is as close to the computer as you can get. So I'm gonna say that's first generation, And after machine language, it's probably assembly language, because remember, that's also an older language and a little bit higher than machine language. Third generation is a natural, high level, or higher level. I'm going to say natural language has to be the highest generation, so fifth generation. So I'm going to say the third generation's high level language. Fourth generation is higher level language, whatever that means. And fifth generation is natural language. Let's see, first generation machine, assembly, high level, higher level, and natural language. Is that right? Should be right. I don't know. I'm just hardcore process of elimination. Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. Which of the following security model works at the operating system level and mainly deals with access right integrity in the system? So when it comes to questions like this, the question itself, the context of the question itself is the answer. So most likely the choices are not going to have an explanation. I know that Clark-Wilson deals with integrity, but is it an operating system that works at the operating system level, which is like the application level, and mainly deals with access right? I forget everything about the Sutherland model. I forget everything about the Harrison-Rizzo-Ullman model, and I forget everything about the Graham-Denning model. All I know is that Clark-Wilson is an integrity model, and that's what I'm going to have to go with. Okay. No, it's not. It's Harrison-Rizzo-Ullman model. Okay. The correct answer is C. Which of the following security model works at the operating system level and mainly deals with access right integrity in the system? Harrison-Rizzo-Ullman model. Doesn't look like I provide explanations for the other ones, but probably because this is the question itself is the definition of that choice. So the explanation is the question. The question is the explanation. Question 14, work factor is a concept that describes the time and effort required to perform a complete brute force attack against an encryption system. Which of the following statements isn't true pertaining to this concept? Which of the following isn't true? So work factor describes time and effort required to brute force against the system, okay? So which one is not true? So I'll look for the choices that are true first. The size of the work factor should match against the relative value of the protected asset. I think that's kind of true. Right? You don't want to, again, I think we had a question like this. You don't want to, if the asset is worth $1 billion, you know, you can put in a year's worth of work to try and crack that $1 billion system because it's going to be worth it even after a year. But if the asset is worth like $100 or like $10, I'm not going to spend like 5 minutes on that. I'm not going to spend 6 hours out of my day to try to break a system worth $10. So that's basically what it's saying. The security offered by the crypto system is directly proportional to the value of the work factor. Okay, so the security of the crypto system is directly proportional to the value of the work factor. Is that true or not true? That's confusing. I'm going to say it is true. For an attacker, the work factor needs to be, let's look at choice C. For an attacker, the work factor needs to be lower than the time value of the protected asset, meaning attacker needs to spend less time than the actual value. Yeah. So if it's $1 billion, you don't want to spend all your life doing that because you want to enjoy stealing that $1 billion. I think that's what it's saying. Don't work more than what the value is actually worth. This is confusing, but this is an excellent how to think like a manager question, especially when it comes to encryption. Choice D is work factor uses cost and or time metric to measure the strength of the cryptography system. Which one's the answer? I'm going to say the security offered by the crypto system is directly proportional to the value of the work factor. But the question is asking which of the following statements isn't true? Which one isn't true? Security system is directly, okay, that is true. Size of the work factor should match against, that's true. The work factor needs to be lower than the time value. Oh, this isn't true. It's choice C. Choice C. The work factor needs to be higher than the time value of the protected asset. So what this is saying, let me just confirm this is the right answer. Is it? Yeah, it is. And it's saying that, it's saying that you should put in as many security measures that protects an asset. You should put in as much that the amount of work it takes an attacker to break into it is going to be considerably longer than the value of the asset itself, right? The work factor should be longer or cost more than the actual value of the asset. So the attacker needs to put in a lot more work than what the actual value of the asset is. That's what it's saying. The work required to break the crypto system of a protected asset should be longer than the value of the asset to deter an attacker from using too much time and resources. Ooh, good question, me. Good question. I like that one. That's a really good CISSP question. I like how I praise myself. I'm taking this exam like, you know, I haven't seen this practice questions in a long time. I'm doing this. This is a code open, guys. Code open. All right, private IP addresses can be hidden through the use of network address translation. 100% true. As a network security engineer, did I mention that already? That I know that because we use public IP, we use NAT to convert private IP addresses to public IP addresses to be routable on the internet. And we're not hiding private IP addresses with NAT. I mean, we are, but we're also private IP addresses, RFC. I shouldn't have started to quote a RFC. I couldn't. RFC something for private IP address. Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. That's like a standard thing to know. Private IP addresses can't be routed through the internet, so they need a public IP. And we use, for like 50 private IP addresses, 50 workstations, we use one public IP, which is like a one-to-many NAT mapping, which is true. And yes, NAT can prevent private IP addresses from being exposed to internet. At the same time, private IP addresses are usually non-routable through the internet anyway, and NAT provides a routable public IP address. Right, the CISSP exam is not technical, but it can be. Do you need to know the technical in order to understand the high level? Absolutely. Don't sleep on knowing technical concept like this. Okay, the next choice is, which security model states that a subject can write to an object if and only if the subject cannot read another object in a different data set? Oh, great. Well, I know it's not Harrison-Russo model because we just talked about that. It has something to do with integrity and working at the operating system level. So I'm going to eliminate that from my choices. Is it non-interference model, Brewer-Nash model, Sutherland model? I don't really know, guys. I forgot my security model definitions. Which security model states that a subject can write to an object if and only if the subject cannot read another object in a different data set? Meaning, a subject, if they can't read to another data set, then they get access. I don't know, guys. Non-interference model, I'm just going to go with that. No, it's Brewer and Nash. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know that at all. Okay, Brewer, just like the other question, Brewer and Nash model, the context of the question is the definition of the choice, so that's why there's no explanation given. The question is the explanation. Look at the next one. Helena wants to send a message to Omar in a PKI environment. She wants to make sure that she can apply message integrity as well as privacy services into the message. She asks you how she could accomplish this goal. So if she wants to send a message and apply integrity, I know it's going to be something to do with hashing or message digest or integrity services like that. And because it's in a PKI, I also like to think that it has to do with something with digital signatures, because digital signatures involve integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation. So choice A, generate a MAC value. Yep, that is something about integrity by concatenating the message with Helena's private key and append the hash value to the message. Then encrypt. Well, before I even look at the choices, I'm going to tell myself, okay, digital signatures, it means the recipient can only decrypt the file or the message with their private key, which means the message itself has to be encrypted with the recipient, who is Omar. So the message has to be encrypted with Omar's public key so he can decrypt it with his private key. Okay, so that I'm just going to remember that and see if that works for the question. Then encrypt the message to Omar's public key. Generate a MAC value by concatenating the message with Helena's private key. I'm not too sure about concatenating the message to Helena's private key. You don't want to send the private key with anyone, so I don't think choice A is the right answer. Generate a message digest to Helena's private key. Message digest, that's an integrity thing, so maybe it's choice B. Generate a message digest with Helena's private key, then encrypt the whole message in Omar's public key. I don't know if you can generate a message digest with a private key. You use an integrity algorithm to create the message digest. I don't think that's the right answer. Generate a message digest with Omar's public key, then encrypt the whole message to Helena's private key. That's wrong, because you don't want to encrypt the whole message to Helena's private key. She's the sender. You want to encrypt it with Omar's public key. So that's choice C is definitely wrong. Choice D, put the message through a hashing function. Okay, that sounds right already, if you ask me. Append the generated message digest into the message. Yep, that's the digital signature process. Then encrypt the whole message, I hope, with Omar's public key. Encrypt the whole message with Omar's public key. It's choice D. It has to be. Yeah, correct. Yeah, the process is similar to the digital signature process. See, I told you. I remember that. I didn't have to. The question had nothing to do with digital signatures, didn't mention it, but just the vibe of it told me that it has something to do with digital signatures. And all I had to do was remember how digital signatures work, and that led me to choice C, the correct answer. Okay, and even the word PKI, public key infrastructure, it's encryption and digital signatures encryption. That's just what kind of led me to that. Okay. Let's see. Which of the following federal plans focuses on restoring an organization's mission, essential functions to an alternate site, and performing those functions for up to 30 days before returning to operations? Federal plans. I know one thing. Continuity of operations plans, COOP, is in NIST documents, and NIST documents are guidelines for federal agencies. So based just on knowing that, continuity operations, COOP, is most synonymous with business continuity for at a federal level. I'm going to say it's choice C. DRP is a short-term thing. BCP is a long-term objective, and critical infrastructure plan, CIP, I don't know if that's even a CISSP thing. Choice C. Yeah, correct. See, COOP is mentioned in Continuity Operations Plan template and instructions for federal departments and agencies at FEMA.gov. See, I told you. I remember that. I remember that continuity operations and federal agencies were related. If I learned nothing else from my CISSP books, I knew at least those two terms were related, and that's what helped me answer this question. Sure, it could have been BCP and DRP, but those are general questions, and because of the word federal, that just led me to COOP, Continuity of Operations. Next question. A user wants to send a digitally signed message with the MD2 hashing algorithm. Geez, I must have written this question like 6 years ago or something. The user calculates the message digest and appends it at the end of the message without computing the 16-byte checksum. Which of the following is the most correct statement pertaining to this scenario? Oh, it has to do with collisions and birthday attacks or something. Okay, I get it. Collisions will... By the way, MD2 is heavily deprecated. It's old. Don't even use that anymore. You're supposed to use SHA-1. Collisions will more likely occur as the checksum generation didn't take place. I don't know. The computation of the checksum is an added security feature of MD2. Is it? I don't know. MD2 is very old. I don't know if they had that kind of feature back then. Without the checksum, hashing will not occur. Well, that's just false. That's not correct. And choice D, the speed of the hashing process is significantly increased without the checksum. That is also true. I think I'm going to go with choice D, guys. What do you think? I think choice D. Collisions will more likely occur as the checksum generation didn't take place. If checksum generation didn't take place, it'll be more of a inability to detect errors. I think that's what it is, not collisions. Collisions aren't going to happen without a checksum. More errors are going to not be detected without a checksum. So I know it's not choice A. The computation of the checksum is an added security feature of choice 2. I'm not sure checksums were part of MD2. Without the checksum, it's choice C. It's got to be choice C. Oops, it's not answer. What's the right answer? Collisions will more likely occur as the checksum generation take place. Why? MD2 is vulnerable to collision, okay, via birthday attack, okay? If the 16-byte checksum is not included as padding to the 128-bit hash value, okay. Oh, look what else I write. I write, do you really need to know that for the exam? Probably not. Then why are you faced with this practice question? Because of where it leads you. MD2 was found to be vulnerable, so MD4 exists. And why do you have MD5? Because MD4 has been found to be vulnerable. And why do you have SHA? Because it is an improvement over MD5. Oh boy, I mean, that's a good explanation if I've ever heard one. And I've heard one because I wrote that. Just because something is so out of scope, or do you have to know about checksums and exact checksums, 128 byte hash values or anything like that for the CISSP exam? Probably not, too technical. But it does lead you to the fact that, oh, you had MD2. Why don't we use MD2? We went to MD4, then we went to MD5, and then eventually SHA, because each one got deprecated and for a very specific reason. So knowing the reason why we have new hashing algorithms is the actual value to extract from this question. What do I say here? It says, do you see what's going on? It's not the fact that you knew or did not know the specifics of MD2, but whether you understand the concept of why there are so many hashing algorithms. Yep, that's exactly what I said. Next one. What is the scope of a disaster recovery plan? What is the scope of DRP? All right, so without even looking at the choices, I'm gonna say this to myself. I'm gonna say that, okay, what do I know about DRP? I know that it's a short-term fix. It's for short-term disasters that is of the technology brand, of a system, of something technical. Meaning a computer went down, a system. I'm like literally looking away from the computer now because I don't want to look at the choices. DRP has to do with a system going on, a sort of technology going down, and it helps to relief. It helps to recover short-term disasters that may affect long-term high-level issues. So just knowing these two, I'm going to go and look at the choices. So the scope of DRP, does it address critical infrastructure components that are operated by an organization? It could, yeah. Activates after major system disruptions with long-term effects. I'm going to say no, because long-term effects is BCP takes care of long-term effects. Okay. Choice C, addresses mitigation and isolation of affected systems and minimizing loss of disruption information. Yeah, that could be the right answer too. Minimizing loss of information. While that's true, DRP focuses on recovering systems back, not minimizing loss of information. Actually, it does that too. Ooh, tricky question. Addresses single information system recovery at the current or appropriate alternate location. Choice D just sounds weird. I'm going to eliminate choice D. I'm left with three choices. Addresses critical infrastructure components that are operated by the organization. I'm going to say that's the answer, because DRP is about technology and addressing short-term disasters of the infrastructure. I'm gonna say A. Incorrect. What? Choice B. Why? A DRP is put in place to implement proper recovery and mitigation strategies after a major system disruption, which may have system disruption. That's more specific. That's right. DRP, as I said, deals with technology and systems. So activates after major system disruptions with long-term effects. Okay, so I get it. The short-term disaster is the system went down. Okay, say like a web server went down. Ooh, that's bad. Web server goes down. We need to get that web server back up. That's DRP, disaster recovery. You're trying to recover that technological system, and it's disruptions to long-term effects. The long-term effects isn't a technological problem. It's a company problem. Like if the web server goes down, which generates profit for you, you're losing profit, and your competitors are winning, and your company's taking a reputation hit, and there's going to be a lot more confusion, and investors and board of directors are going to be like, what happened to the CEO and the CFO? Explain that to me. So that's the long-term effect. Those long-term effects are handled by the BCP, everybody involved in business continuity. So that's why, since there's a major system disruption that can have a long-term high-level effect, that's why we use DRP. Okay. Choice A, I don't know why I didn't see the explanation for why that, but I'm guessing because it's a little too general, too broad. Maybe choice A is the culmination of BCP DRP, but choice B focuses more on the DRP part. I'm pretty sure that's what I meant. All right, next one. All right, this is Tech is developing a new monitoring application which will work interdependently with the existing SIM platform. Okay, so they're developing a new application that needs to work with the SIM platform, existing SIM platform. During their SDLC, the developers did not have enough knowledge about the existing SIM platform and sought to bring in the senior SIM analyst for advice and knowledge transfer. The developers are currently at which stage of the software development lifecycle? Okay. Hey, very important, guys. You got to know the software development lifecycle for the CISSP exam. You just got to know it. Not only do you have to know the steps, the description of each phase of the SDLC, but you also have to know how security interplays in each one of those steps. So know your different software development lifecycle models, know each step, be able to describe each step of the SDLC, and then be able to say what type of security works in each of those phases. Or how is security implemented at each part of those, in each one of those phases. But this question is asking, developers are at which stage of the SDLC? What they did was they brought in a SIM specialist of the SIM platform, because they didn't know much about the SIM stuff, to give advice and knowledge transfer. And this is, again, from my real life experience. When developers develop code, they sometimes call in the security professionals, especially the network security guys, to see how they can develop the code more securely, how they work around our own security functions. So I'm going to say it's not the testing phase, because they're still developing the code. It could be the development phase. We're going to say choice B is a strong possibility. Choice A is not. Could be the design phase. We look for development, design. It's not choice A and choice D, because it's not initiation, because they're already working on the thing. And they're talking about the developers, which is a bit more where you're a little bit deep into the SDLC process for it to be the initiation phase, and a little bit too early for it to be the testing phase. So it's either development or design. I'm going to go with design, because development means the actual coding, and design means you're still kind of working the parts around. Once you get the design phase done, and like you get input from the SIM analyst about the SIM platform, then you can start coding around the information the SIM analyst gave you. So choice C is my final answer. Yeah, that's correct. Choice C is the final answer, because The SIM analyst would be a functional representative from the SIM team, the team that would know the most, and this is the point during the SDLC that the expert could be brought in. Like, they're not going to bring him in when they're coding the platform. They're going to be bringing him before that, during the design phase. Yeah, choice C is absolutely correct. Whoa, choice question 20. Wow, that's a lot. That's a wall of text, which is indicative of my questions and my explanations. I'm just going to pause this video to read all of it, and then you guys can, I'll scroll down so you guys can pause yourselves on the YouTube. On the YouTube, it sounds like my parents. Luke, can you please use the Googles to look up how I can change the wire in my fridge? The Googles, Luke, that's my dad. Use Googles. Okay, hold on one second while I read this. Okay, so basically the question is asking, based on the security administrator's testimony, what charge can be brought upon the executive team for gross negligence? Choice A, the executives did not report the insider threat immediately to authorities. Employee computer activities were being monitored. Improper practice of due care, and confidential data was not okay. The question is asking, the security administrator's testimony, what charge can be brought on the executive team? So you want to look for something that is an actual law term. There's an actual like legal thing that you can bring on the senior manager, like to be used in a court of law. You're not going to ask you're not going to accuse the executives though of insider threat.
Is this
that the fact that did not report insider threat immediately to authorities? You say that stuff to like the FBI or like an enforcement agency, not in a court of law, not in a formal like trial. Choice B, employee computer activities were being monitored. Again, not something a little too not legal enough. I'm going to say it's choice C. And you know what? I could have also not read the entire thing, but I did. And it's about management not doing their job, which is basically not practicing due care. And that's an actual legal term, due care, like improper practice of due care. And here's the other thing, guys. Let me just quickly mention this is correct, right? This is correct? Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it's exactly what I thought. Because because of improper practice of due care, that's why choice A happened. That's why choice B happened. And that's why choice D happened. Because of choice C, choice D, B, and A happens, which makes choice C the correct answer. Improper practice of due care, not only is it an actual legal term, but that's what executives, when they don't practice proper due care, the other choices happen. Okay? And next is, which of the following types of attacks against smart cards is considered a passive attack that takes advantage of just the inference and analysis abilities of the attacker without trying to actively invade the environment of the target card? So we're looking for an attack that's a passive attack, not an active attack. An active attack is one that's touching the system and interacting with it, and you can detect that. A passive attack's more like in the background, just kind of like observing things. Oh boy, these choices take me back. I don't really software attack, micro probing attack, differential power analysis, fault generation. What's the asset? It's a smart card. I know micro probing and smart cards. I know those two terms go together, so I'm just gonna go with choice C. Oh shoot, that's wrong. What's the correct answer? Differential power analysis. Why? Differential power analysis is a side channel attack. And side channel attacks are considered non-invasive or passive attacks for sure, because the other choices must be active attacks, right? Yeah, fault generation attack, yes, that is someone actively messing with the environment of the smart card. That's an active attack. Choice C, micro probing attack, yeah, that's a non-passive and an active attack. Oh, I messed up I didn't read my own question carefully. I'm looking for something that's a passive attack, and choice A is an active attack, choice C is an active attack, choice D is a distractor, choice B is the correct answer because it's the only passive attack. Ooh, good question, Luca Med, CISSP instructor or extraordinaire. Good job. Good job to me. I got it wrong, but good job to me for writing the question. All right, Rick is carrying a box with 2 Cisco ASA 5550 firewalls in his company's rack at a data center. Rick could easily have been Luke because he's done that before. He submits to a fingerprint scan and then swipes his badge to enter a man trap. He egresses the man trap and heads toward the security guard station to sign in. He is then led into a giant data center, escorted by one of the guards. After enters the cage, he sees the signs. It is suggested that you lock the cage from the inside for your own safety. What type of corporate document would contain this statement? It is suggested that you lock the cage. Oh, it's a guideline, because guidelines are suggestions. Standards are enforced and you have to follow it. Security policies are enforced and you have to follow it. Baselines are enforced and you have to follow it. Guidelines are the only thing that is suggested. So it is suggested that you lock the cage from the inside for your own safety. I'm going to say this is 100% correct. It's got to be. I will shut down my CISSP course if this is not the right answer. Phew. Okay, it is guidelines. Yeah. Correct answer is B because guidelines are suggestive documents that aren't enforced, which is what the question is asking. Last one, guys. Which choice provides the least confidentiality? Okay, so this one revolves around confidentiality. Choice A, trusted platform. Well, I know that choice A, TPMs provide the most confidentiality. It's hard-coded into the motherboard, so it provides the most confidentiality. I can probably eliminate this choice right away. But who knows? Maybe choice B, C, and D also provide even more confidentiality somehow. And this could make choice A the have the least ability to provide confidentiality. Is it electronic codebook, ECB? Maybe. Is it one-time? Okay, well, here it is. One-time pad provides way more confidentiality than trusted platform module, even though TPMs provide a lot of confidentiality. Basically, guys, one-time pads are unbreakable. They are the unbreakable crypto algorithm. So choice A and choice C provide a lot of confidentiality. So I'm going to look at choice B and D. And choice D, mandatory access control, that's all about confidentiality. That's nothing but confidentiality. Not integrity, but focus on preventing users from reading up or down an operating system or within classification labels. So that has to do a lot with confidentiality as well. I'm going to say A, C, and D provide more confidentiality than choice B, and I think choice B has some sort of vulnerability to it. If I remember ECB from my DES, AES or DES description days, right? Symmetric encryption algorithms. Let's see if that's right. Yes, correct. Awesome. Whoa, why does the text look funny? Yeah, while ECB, a DES mode operation, DES has been broken, provides confidentiality. It is an algorithm that, oh, I spelled algorithms wrong. I got to fix that. Let me make a note. Hold on. Make sure to correct this. I hate grammar errors. I spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. Oh, if I see them, I feel so cringy. I just have to correct it right away. I will redo an entire 1-hour video if it means to correct one spelling error. That's like how picky I am about that. Grammar is really important, guys. Yes, TPM, as I said, is a hardware-based encryption. It's utmost confidentiality. One-time pads are understood to be the only truly unbreakable algorithm, and mandatory access control is all about enforcing confidentiality, with choice B being the correct answer, which provides the least confidentiality. Submit my answers. Let's see what my score is. I know I got a couple wrong. Can you imagine CISSP instructor who doesn't get all his questions right? I got a score of 68, which means I failed. I failed my own practice question. Score 68 out of 100. I got a 68%. I got 17 correct answers, 8 incorrect answers. Required passing grade 70%. Oh, I was so close. I was like 2% away. It took me 2 hours and 7 minutes to do this. Oh, my God. Have I really been sitting here since 10 a.m.? I have. I started this at 10 a.m., and now it's like noontime. Holy cow. Just 25 questions like that. And I know anybody who's taken my CISSP course and has gone through the practice questions has faced the same thing, right? Because I get the same statements like, Luke, I cannot pass your practice questions. My highest score is like between 55% and 65%. I'm like, hey man, don't worry about that. It's not the score that should be like. Don't worry about the scores too much. They are just meant to provide a helpful metering of your progress. The scores don't matter as much as knowing which choice was correct, and more importantly, why the other choices were incorrect. That's the real value to extract from each practice question in my CISSP portal. Because while I can't really comment on what the exam is going to be like, I can say that my questions are meant to be tougher than the exam. That's how I do things. This way, you might find the actual exam easier. But really, the real exam is unlike any practice questions out there, including mine. The scores you're getting on those other test engines are average compared to mine, and you should just trust your process and you should be fine with it. For the practice questions, just think about this. Were you able to eliminate 2 choices and clearly see that the other 2 were incorrect? Were you able to consider cost, risk, and human life before security? I know it's a security exam, but it's actually a business exam, meaning profits come first after human life. And if you want a hard assessment, then try scoring above 70% on my exam and above 85% other exams like, the Cybex, the Sean Harris, basically any other practice question set you're taking out there reviewing. Try to score 85% or above on those exams, and on mine, try to score 70% or above 70%. There will be progress, guys, on your part. Other members have said, even if they do terribly at study notes and theory questions, by doing these and going through the rigors of it, they realize that after, when they do other exam engines, other test engines, they do better in those. So if you're doing study notes and theory exam questions and failing, but then taking like the SciBex questions and some other questions, you're going to do better in those because of the work you put in with mine. Okay? Study notes and theory, a CISSP study guide. I'm your instructor, Luke Ahmed, and I hope you enjoyed this 25 practice question speedrun. All right? The link to my courses in the description below, and thank you for watching. Good luck.